we're back on. So I think to summarize this, one guy in the chat pretty much nailed it, right? Lars, no fancy stuff, please.
Yes.
Maybe no fancy shit. ZywOo is obviously too good for us to watch. I guess we can all agree on that, right?
Look, just saying, like, we're all fired. This is the last episode, so might as well enjoy it, like, to the maximum.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this guy. Obviously, we didn't do an MVP for DreamHack Atlanta, but I think it would be pretty easy to determine who it would have been without really looking that much at the games, right? I know Striker, once in a while you get to help Peter with doing that. This would have probably been one of the cases, right? Where...
Nope. No, so, it's always the case when there's multiple games going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Which was not the case at DreamHack. So not this time actually. But I mean, I think it was quite an obvious decision.
Yeah, pretty much. Looking at the stats, there was definitely no, and also just the highlights, which we could have been watching right now. DreamHack obviously named him MVP themselves. So what a showing from this guy, right? I know a lot of people are kind of questioning whether he could actually do it on LAN, since he played some smaller ones with AAA, but this was definitely his biggest showing of all time, right? And he's still a very young player. Next, I want to ask you is, I mean, did this just become, in FPL, did this just become like day-to-day stuff that ZywOo would go and do these kind of things? Would you kind of expect it when going up against him?
Yeah, like, he's the guy who, if he's not the captain, he's always the first pick in FPL, right? And there was no doubt in my mind that he was gonna go nuts on LAN with Vitality. I knew, like, from the first moment I played with him that he was gonna be really, really sick. I think my first game with him was in 2016. We played some qualifier as a mix, maybe even 2015, can't really say for sure. And he had like 40 frags that game, and I was like, this guy is really fucking sick. He's gonna be insane in a few years. And here he is now, like, he's super sick. He has insane game sense. His aim is just on another level. Like, I don't even have anyone to compare it to. I would even say his aim is better than Simple, to be honest.
Kind of the sentiment in the last show as well. Like, I like it. Let's see how it goes, right? If guests keep saying it, maybe it will come true.
The last episode, I just said, like, Vitality is gonna beat everyone. I mean, they didn't beat everyone. They lost to Ghost, but it was pretty. When it got to the playoffs, it was pretty like easy win for Vitality. So I was correct, at least to something, because all the bets went like to shit the last 5 episodes or something. But yeah, ZywOo is just insane. I remember talking with Face It Mikey, the Face It guy, obviously, that does a lot of FPL stuff. He said like ZywOo actually is gonna be like insane. Like his FPL stats are comparable with Simple, and like no one else is near that stuff. With like kills per game or kills per round, win percentage, all of the stuff is like on that level, and he's gonna be sick when he actually starts playing. I'm like, okay, sounds good. And when we saw him play, it's just amazing. It's amazing to watch. Love it.
Do you guys think it kind of just makes sense that he would just replicate it on LAN, or was it fair to question whether it could actually happen?
I think it was kind of fair because, like, up to now, we've like the biggest tournament I think we've seen him at was like ESWC, which has become a pretty much like a tier 2 to 3 tournament. But by now, like over the past couple of years, that has not been a very well contested tournament. So to like, sure, he already showed up there, and there were a couple of teams that are notable, like Big and somebody else I don't remember right now, that showed up at that LAN. So I think it was justified for us to kind of think about, well, maybe he's not going to show up as much as we see him on FPL. It's also a different kind of environment where obviously he's not playing kind of everything that he wants. It's also to play for the team and everything like that. So it's all very different. So it was fair, I think, to kind of doubt whether he would be able to at least go as nuts as he usually does. But I mean, he delivered. Like, that's fair game. That's insane, honestly.
So, Nexa, did you have you were saying you were kind of sure he was going to become insane, and that he would probably do well when he actually did official games as well. Did you not have the same doubt as many analysts?
No, I had no doubt that he was going to show up on LAN and I mean, he did really show up big. He's like really positive guy, right? And I think he has like the right players and people right now in Vitality and behind him, who know how to, you could say, nurture talent that he has, right? And just point him in the right direction to like get to the very top. So I was sure that he was gonna perform really well, and he did.
Can you elaborate on that a little? I mean, obviously he has some veterans on the team with him, but how does it work with him?
Well, I don't really know how it works exactly, but it's just they brought him on the team to be the star player, right? Because they knew what he was capable of, and they gave him all the roles he wanted and let him do whatever the hell he wants on the map, right? And when you have a guy like ZywOo who always makes plays regardless of the round or the situation, and you just give him the freedom that he needs and the confidence to go for the plays, he'll just always deliver.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see like how the team allows him to actually make plays and plays around that, just that one, like the eco ace that he got at the end of the game against Luminosity, when Vitality had all USPs. First they kind of rush mid or something, they get one like kill there. ZywOo gets the AK, gets like an insane one tap whatever, which is, yeah, that's his skill set, he's insane. But after that, the way they play, like the rest of the team doesn't make like stupid plays. They just like kind of stay alive and bait for him to get the kills and stuff like that. So if the team does like stupid stuff with the USPs, ZywOo doesn't get into the chance to actually kill the guys on B, get into trade frags and stuff like that. Like the only guy that actually did something, like Apex just ran out and died with a USP, but that's Apex, classic Apex. Sometimes he does stuff like that, but like, it's just a small example of how the team kind of works around him and just allows him to take the duels, has his time, like boost him mid, wait for him to get like the 2 deagle kills, and then they just like go together somewhere. They really do rely on him, maybe sometimes too much on the T side to just get kills and stuff like that, but if it's working, you can't really blame him for that.
Yeah, but that's like the really good thing when you have a player who's like capable of making those plays. You should put him in all like the prime positions and give him like all the chances to get your entries instead of like limiting him to playing passive, wanting to run your default and stuff like that. Just like not letting him go for the plays that he would usually make online, right? Instead, they should just let him do whatever he wants and just build up that confidence because, as I said, he's like really nuts, and if he's like playing confident and hitting in shots, then he's unstoppable.
I was talking to NBK before this game, I think, because before they went to Atlanta, he had a deagle 4K or ace, I don't remember, against Windigo or something.
I think it was Existing Galaxy, the one.
Yeah, right.
Mirage one, yeah. It was ace. It was an ace.
It was an ace on a Mirage, yeah. So I was saying just as a sort of a goodbye, and I was like, so MBK, have fun in Atlanta. Remember to just tell Matthew to just buy the deagle every time, and he totally obliterated. I think I forgot who this was, but it was before the Rogue game. And I was like, told you about the deagle. Yeah, he fucking showed an easy game. Oh, this was Fraxters. This was Fraxters too. It's like like the guy like MBK said, I don't go into much about why he's so good. I just care about the guy, keeping the guy next to me, which is kind of hilarious given that now it was also leaked that G2 was actually trying to get him, I think while he was signing for Vitality, was the report or something
like that. It was like obviously too late to get them. I don't know, like, what are your guys' thoughts on it? Obviously, a lot of people that played FPL with him knew he was insane. So, like, all of the top players knew he was insane. So why didn't anyone pick him up before? Because, like, it's not like Vitality is a bad team. It's like an okay team. But there was a period in time where Vitality wasn't still a thing, where obviously other teams also had an opportunity to pick him up. So, like, why didn't that happen?
I think, wasn't there a time where he was like in school and he wanted to finish that up before he actually committed into something full time?
I think that ended a bit before like all of this other stuff. And also I think now the good old French leaker reporter said that there was like also an option to buy him out, but like leave him on loan for 6 months to play against All Authority, the French team he was in. So that was also an option. But
I
no
mean,
one wanted to do it.
considering how that team felt about having players on the payroll that don't play, right? This
Yeah.
shouldn't really be a problem of having an 18-year-old bankrolled for just a little while before actually. I mean, maybe NBK just has the best luck in the world, right? Or it has some very insane negotiating skills or somehow. And also talking about him, he actually had a pretty good run at Atlanta too. I saw him posting on his Twitter, I think some of his stats from some of the games. And he's like, couldn't let the youngsters have all the fun. And when I look at it, it's pretty insane. He had 1.45 against Luminosity in the final, and only positives in the playoffs, apart from one single game on Dust 2 that they lost to Complexity, right? So, I mean, it kind of outshines everyone else, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Did you have veterans coming back from not playing for a while who actually do really well?
Was that a question? I was lost.
I mean, it does not really happen, right? But at the same time, NBK has never really been out of it. It's just like he's just had roles where he's not really at all set up to shine. He was doing okay in those. And maybe like this time he actually does play a little bit differently, even though it's a lot of the same NBK that we're used to seeing from back in G2. It's still a little bit different. So maybe it's just like a change of atmosphere, change of scenery, kind of everything, a little bit of change of his role. So like all of that together can do a lot to a player. So that all of that together just makes him a little bit better.
Something that I also was looking at that was pretty interesting at this event, and I know this is just a DreamHack event, and they obviously have to go up against some better teams. Hopefully for them the invites will come now, right? But the map pool for them was pretty great. I think they played 6 maps or something, and even had a train game that Complexity picked against them that they 16-1 them on. So I think that's looking pretty promising, at least as far as, you know, if you take all considerations that it wasn't a top tier event, because that's usually not something that you'll see this early on from teams. Or
definitely not, especially for a team like this where it's, well, like you said, it's how long has it been? About 2 months that they've kind of been together, at least unofficially. So in that time to actually develop a 6 to 7 map pool is pretty insane, to be honest. Like obviously, like you say, it's different. Like, well, we're gonna have to see how it goes against different level of opposition. This has been kind of tier 2, but it has been kind of proven teams like you were talking about, Complexity and like Ghost, still teams that at least have quite a lot of experience now, at least from the past couple of months. So it's pretty legit, honestly.
So go ahead, Prof.
I actually like when talking about the whole Vitality situation, about them having like a 6 map pool potentially like this early on. Also kind of you get the sense why maybe they wouldn't be that good in best of 1 online qualifiers, open qualifiers, because teams that play those tournaments usually just have like 3 or 4 maps that they play all the time. And if you're playing like 6 maps, then you're obviously aiming on the long run to be better and to compete like in best of 3s at tournaments and stuff like that. But it doesn't really help you to qualify for the minor, since it's all best of 1s except the last game, which they actually didn't reach. I don't think they ever reached it, right? They always were eliminated in the best 1 phase. So yeah,
we eliminated them last time.
Yeah. So I actually want to ask you about that as well. Like, what do you think? How did that game break down, and
how did you do it?
How did you win it?
Well, I mean, you can like obviously see that they're actually putting in the work, not just having 6 maps, but having like 6 really good maps for them, I would say. Like, and most of it is just ZywOo who can play. I think he can play like all 7 maps with like having 30 kills and every one of them like night and day, you know. And the way we beat him is we have 4 maps, right? We're ready for the best of 1s, and we practiced 4 maps for 2 weeks, and we knew it was gonna be down to like Dust 2, Mirage, you know, maps like that. And we were basically ready for it. We anti-strutted them, and we had like a flying start, and they just couldn't. I mean, it was like really tight at the end. We were kind of throwing on our CT side, but we closed it out in overtime. It was just basically us anti-strutting them. Our analyst or /coach Emmy doing a really good job there, And just like it was all like by the book. We knew everything that they were gonna do, how they were gonna hold it their city side.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yes,
I
remember.
actually remember somebody saying that, like, based on what Vitality are playing, like the play style, they actually seem pretty easy to read.
Yeah.
I don't remember whose tweet that was. There was I'm not sure right now, but is that something that you actually picked up on? It was that easy, or was it just a lot of research?
It was just like Emmy just watching 2 or 3 demos of their Mirage and just instantly knowing when they throw these smokes they're gonna do that round. If they aren't showing presence here, they're probably gonna finish B, stuff like that. And it was really obvious what they were gonna do. But also on their city side, like when they would throw like a certain nade for a ramp or a flash or things like that, we would know like what kind of setup they would have. And I mean, I can't really say if it was really obvious by them or a really, really good job by Emmy,
Guess who had the most kills in that game?
Probably
Oh.
nexa.
Oh, this is the wrong match. I thought it was actually you, but then I clicked the wrong match. The one
No, it was
against
Hunter. I
Chaos.
actually opened it
was
up as
Hunter,
well.
yeah.
So
I was
nice
about
try.
to say. I was about
I just
to
remember watching that game, like when I turned on the stream, it was you were leading. I don't know what was the lead. It was like 13-7 or something like that, and it was ZywOo in a 1v3, and just see him.
Yeah.
He got this kill that was like probably 40% of chance to get it, and then he was in a 1v2 clutch. And then he kind of misses one shot, like he's losing it, but he's so calm and just kills 2 guys to like random flicks, not random flicks, but kind of bullshit flicks. You would, if he killed you like that, you call it, this is bullshit.
Yeah, you know, comms on T-Speak 1v3, and we're saying, careful guys, it's ZywOo alive, don't peek. Those were the comms.
That's insane.
And then they brought it back to overtime, but you closed it out. So
Yeah.
good stuff in the end.
It's amazing that a person that young and collected has those things set against him, right, on the other team by professional players who, I mean, by all means should give him a run for his money, right? Oh man,
it's the classic. I mean, when you're playing, you're never gonna give like a good. You're never gonna say, "Oh, this is fair. He outplayed me here. This is absolutely correct from him. Like I played this bad." Like you're always gonna say it's bullshit, and then later on think about it and kind of realize what you did bad. But at
this
the
guy's
heat of the
fucking
moment,
cheating. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, right?
That approach is kind of like the simple effect. I was talking about this recently, where like a lot of the time you see simple in like the 1v2 or even like a duel or whatever, like where the other player actually knows that it's simple against them, and you can tell that people have that in the back of their minds, like, okay, this is simple. I should just expect everything and I should just play as passive as possible, which just gives simple even more space to work with. And players don't even understand that at a lot of points. Like I've seen even like some of the best players in the world do that. So it's just funny to kind of hear, like, obviously this is a little bit of a different level, but to hear somebody having that effect as well, it's just funny.
Yeah, and it's always funny when players are like elevated to this point, right? That there's sort of an aura around them. I'd like to try and get to that point sometime. It's just, I mean, but the hard part is that's also something that you have to kind of you have to go along with, and you have to kind of accept it as well. I'm curious and obviously we probably won't get to ask him, at least not on this show, for a while, considering his interview proficiency when looking at what happened at the major. But I'd like to pick his brain around that. What does it feel like to already be at that stage that people are kind of frightened of you, right?
I mean, like, look at how far Simple has gone. Like, he has kind of earned it, man.
Yeah. All right, so moving on, guys, we have several more topics to talk about, and this one was actually a user suggestion who wanted to, I think it was Drawlan, who you actually had on the show a while back, who was asking us to discuss whether there is an idea in merging the EU and CIS minors, since the EU minor is so stacked and the CIS one isn't. I guess that's the kind of the bedrock of that debate. What's your guys' take on that, actually trying to maybe increase the integrity of the qualifying within these two regions?
I mean, I guess the first question you kind of have to ask yourself is whether the minors are there so that the best teams actually get to the major, so that more teams get a chance. so like more different teams get a chance, which was always kind of the question regarding those tournaments. Like at the beginning, if you remember, like Valve's like reasoning behind creating the minors was just basically to give like new teams a different like way to get into the system and to get into the cycle, like teams that haven't really been discovered before and things like that. So like if you look at it from that perspective, it kind of makes sense to have CIS separately. But at the same time, as I was saying at the start, if you want to have the best teams, obviously you should just have them combined and have like the online season, it could be separate. It's obvious for like ping reasons. Like you wouldn't expect Kazakhstan to play against Great Britain, like basically all the way on the opposite ends of the region. So that's just makes sense for the online part to be separate. But like then why not just make it a 16-team minor where everybody just gathers in one location and then plays against each other, and then we can actually see who's the best.
They are at the same location anyway. Like
well, yeah, that's
how
true.
they are.
That's fair enough.
But
They actually play at the same time as well. They just play separate minors.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. It to me, as somebody who just wants to have the best teams possible at the major, it's just, for me, it just doesn't make sense for the CIS and EU minor to be separate. But I can just get Val's point of view as well to have CIS separately because of some of these new teams, and we've actually seen that work. We've seen a lot of these teams do well at the major. Like look at Vega Squadron. Yeah. Look at, well, Moonstrike are now a little bit of a bad example just because they crashed out at the next one, so they just weren't consistent. But it doesn't really defeat the point. They did do really well at the first major they were at. So
the point there is that you'd have to see a CIS team actually go. How far does a CIS team have to go for that argument not to be valid anymore? Like, would they have to go to the playoffs or all the way to the legend state before they kind of prove themselves?
I mean, prove themselves. You still know that the Europe minors is going to have a lot more teams. Like, you know that the CIS minor maybe has like 3 or 4 realistic like candidates for those two spots. Well, in Europe, it could be like anywhere between like 8 and 12, 15 or something like that. There's just loads of teams that could actually take that spot, the top 2. So, well, and now we even have Mousesports in there, so like as a potential candidate. So that's
North as well.
Yeah, North. Like, but I mean, Mousesports is a top 5 team at this point, or very close to it anyway. So to have that kind of a team in the minors is just like is making Europe such an insane tournament. So it's just like, with that in mind, it just feels like the CIS one is completely out of place.
Let's ask one of the players who's actually going to play it. You've been sitting there being kind of quiet, Nexa. What do you think about this?
Just listening to what you guys have to say. Well, my personal opinion is that the having like the region separate gives like up and coming teams chances to like prove themselves and qualify, just like Vega did, like Quantum did a few matches before, right? It gives like unknown players a chance to show what they got, you know, and maybe bring like a different kind of play style into the game, right? Like Vega did. They would, with their like 5 Mac 10s every round, just rushing everywhere, right? They would say that people didn't want to practice with them anymore because all they do is rush. But the thing is that they're not like, you have those kind of teams that play like loose and hit insane headshots on practice, but when it comes to like officials and lands and everything, they're like scared, not peeking, not pushing, right? They play a different kind of game than they do on practice, but that's not like that's not Vega, right? Vega plays their practice the same way they play their officials, right? If they practice rushing with 5 Mac 10s, they'll just rush in a major and fucking quarterfinals, they'll rush you with 5 Mac 10s but they have 10k money, right? So that's like it's a good, having like the minors separate to regions is a good way to like explore and find some new ideas, play styles and stuff like that. I wouldn't merge the minors, but I would just change like the slot dispersion, right? I would give EU minor more slots for the major.
So how many slots do you guys think that are needed for it to be fair? Because
I think 4 for the EU minor.
Coming 7 for Europe and 1 for everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. If you give 4 slots, then you have to change the whole format of the LAN. It can't be 8 teams and 4 qualifying. Doesn't make sense. So then you have to make it a different you need to make it bigger, then it's not the same minor, then it kind of breaks the system.
It's already a little weird with the third place match or the final, right?
Third place tournament, whatever.
Yeah.
Between all four of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
it's a little bit awkward.
It's pretty hard to do it in a way. Okay, if you want to give it 3 slots, then maybe it can stay the same, and you take one from CIS. But of course, people will be upset about that. But
yeah,
when you said that the teams kind of come from CIS and then surprise, I was just thinking about one thing that separates them and like any team that wants to succeed at something, like at some event. They need to practice more if the competition is harder. So let's say if you're an EU team, you need to go through the open qualifier, which is not easy. So you need to like really grind for the open qualifier. Then you need to get in the closed qualifier, you need to grind even more. And then you get to the minor, you need to grind even more. Like all of that just like burns you out. And at the same time, a lot of people just see how you play. That it just has more exposure. It's a bigger tournament, like the EU minor, than any other minor there is. When you compare that to like CIS, like these teams don't have that tough of a competition to get to the major qualifier, and they come to the major qualifier. A lot of like we saw Flipside, we saw Vega do it in that recent major. They just don't play anything. They're just submerged. They play practices, and that's it. So they don't really have to, I don't know how to say it, just like apply themselves that much. And then they come to the major, they're unknown and they're kind of fresh in terms of how much they played. And then they can just go out there and play like a best of one, and they can surprise. And that's like, when you see the games, they deserve the win, but it's not the same thing that as a team that comes from the EU minor that needs to go through all of these steps, and through all of that, they're playing like 10 matches a day, practicing all the time. And over 3 months, you just get burned out, and then you come there and you can't do it. So
it sounds
that like I think that's my reasoning that why we see these like CIS teams doing well, and in the long term they're not doing that well. I mean, we can just like go through all of them and see their history. It's not like they, after being good at the major, became like some super sick teams.
This sounds like the rantings of a disgruntled writer who doesn't know at all what to write about team spirit when they qualify for the major. Right?
I don't know, like team spirit's actually I would say they're an outlier. They've been playing a lot. Like I thought every of these like last couple of majors, they've been playing every qualifier that there is. So I wouldn't really put them in that category, honestly.
I mean, I guess like the whole question kind of boils down to whether we actually see the majors as such important tournaments as they used to be, because obviously with like teams that potentially that haven't really proven themselves yet, which is often the case with some of these CIS teams that make it through, whether it be Spirits or at the time QBF or anybody like that. Like those teams objectively should not be at the major, right? It should not be, like, let me say it this way, should not be among the top 16 teams in the world, right? They should not be considered that. So that's the problem that I have with it. If we want to consider the majors as this the highest step of competition there is, then obviously it should change. If we don't see that way, and it's kind of shifting towards that because we've had tournaments that are potentially more stacked than a lot of these majors that we've seen in the past couple of years, and then it becomes a different question, right? So it depends on what the majors are, but ultimately, at least in my point of view, it should be the best tournament there is. So there should be the best teams, like as close to the top 16 in the world as possible, which this system doesn't really create. So that's my problem with it personally.
Yeah, you will always get like people saying when teams qualify from the EU minor to the major, like everyone would say, oh yeah, they came from the EU minor, right? They deserve to be at the major. But on the other side, when teams come from like the CIS minor and they qualify from the major like that, everyone says, oh well, they just played like the CIS minor wasn't really that hard qualifying for the major, right? So if like the fans and all the other people can like spot a difference in just the level of play and the difference in the teams that are in the CIS minor and EU minor, then I guess it's like obvious for everyone.
But I think if you're a Valve, you also have to look at the commercial side of things and what it actually means to have several teams from one region come in and play on the main stage, which even even the main qualifier now is actually on the main stage, so a chance for teams to come play in the actual major has become even bigger. Then I don't think you can kind of just put that aside and say, well, we want the best teams to be there. Well, yeah, well, we also have an obligation to make sure that fans from this region also have someone to look up to at the actual major, or at least the LAN part of it. And that doesn't only go for, let's say, the money part of things, by which I mean selling the game in those countries, but also just the amount of inspiration it means for younger players coming up, and the kind of service to the whole community in those regions that it has, right? I mean, and I think at this point, making the move to have one slot from the minor just is too hefty. I think it's too big of a thing. It's too drastic of a move.
Yeah,
but then you can potentially like create, like, I don't want to call it a TI, but some sort of a super major where the actual results matter, like from the previous majors, whatever, something like that. And then it makes a lot more sense, right? To have like some big competition where you actually have like a lot of these different regions, and then one where like all of the best teams are, like as close to as possible anyway.
The thing is, like, it boils down to what Striker said at the beginning. When these minors were actually made, it was something to spot the unknown teams, teams that didn't have like a lot of history. Mostly like semi-amateur teams had like maybe some backing, but not like real salary teams mostly. At the state like CS is right now, you have like in Europe 40 plus salary teams, a lot of them like even teams that aren't qualified for the major, you have them with like massive salaries. So these are serious organizations with players that have a lot of experience. And the thing is, there's such a big turnover of new teams coming in. Like you make a roster move, like, and you lose maybe you lose the major spot. You have to go through the whole system of qualification. It's very hard to actually just like get to there in Europe because there are only 2 spots at the minor. So it kind of limits people in terms of making roster changes as well, because you don't really want to be one of those teams that has to go through that. It doesn't mean that you're not a team that is like top 5, top 10 material. You can be that and still not make it through the minor, because it's just a game. You can lose 2 matches and you're out, and that's it. So that's kind of my feeling about like the issue of the European minor having only 2 slots. It doesn't allow the teams to like fluctuate in and out of the major system as fast as they should be, especially with the majors only being like 2 a year. So that's more or less the kind of the issue for me there.
It doesn't matter what we think though, because we had a poll running. Completely forgot about updating on that. 54% of people were actually in favor of merging the minors. So Valve, if you're watching, that's it right there. That's your answer right there.
How many votes did we get? Just like to see what the sample size
you're
is?
talking about data, and I don't know about.
No, I'm just like saying like we've got a reasonable amount of people to consider this a pretty good sample size. So
I like what this Loki guy said in chat. Everyone has different opinions on how the major and minor system should change, but we do all agree that it's wrong as it is right now. So that's kind of, I think that's a good one.
That's just the easy standpoint, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you also have to be kind of constructive about it, right? Like, sure, you can speak as loud as you can about
admitting that something needs to be changed is like the first step.
It's the first step, yeah. Okay.
All right, so I guess moving on now that the community has actually come out with its vote on that. This is something that we wanted. That was also actually, we have a lot of very good viewer questions. Questions that came from our Twitter profile where we ask.
Is everyone gonna get a picture, like a print of the photo, or just one guy?
No, because I don't want to deal with the administration of that or the actual bureaucracy of that. So no, the winning one is gonna come right up. But this one is also a viewer question.
We use them for the questions, but they aren't gonna get the.
They're not. They'll have to come back for the next show and make equally good suggestions. So.
Well, I just realized how good like Nexa's background is. Like it like looks perfectly framed for the thing. It's so
that's all. Actually, just take a moment to appreciate how beautiful we all are, and our backgrounds look so good. And Striker had his haircut, and Oh, I think this is the best looking episode we've had so far. And I know we had Maniac last week. So and look at that man. Look at this man.
Look at that man.
Look at that man.
Look
This
at
man.
look at him.
Don't look at the
all
last
that.
guy. That's fine. I'm fine. Thank you. Anyway, so
I almost got blinded, Jos.
you what? It has been a problem. I'm sorry about that if it ever happened. No, I'm just lightening the mood, getting you guys in a good mental state, because that's what we're going to be talking about next. And this is something that a viewer wanted us to touch on. And obviously, it obviously springs from some situations from players and casters that we've seen recently who are. I wouldn't want to say that this is maybe burnout, but burnout also factors into this. But it's players and talent. Breaking down over the busy schedule that we have, or at least, or in the totality of the pro scene, and being a pro. And we actually touched a little bit about this when we talked to you in the beginning, Nexa, about the period after Renegades. And I want to go back to that actually and kind of get in your mind state around then. Because going across the Atlantic, like you said, you also previously said it was hard to disconnect yourself from your family and friends, and then the pressure of having to IGL, which obviously didn't work out very well. So just once again, run us through how you were feeling back then.
Well, I was feeling pretty stressful from the very beginning, right? Because of all the visa issues, right? I think I was supposed to go there and be with the team in January, and I ended up going in like April or something, right? And that alone just brought on a lot of stress, and with that I had to become an IGL, and it was even more stress and pressure on me. And then I wasn't doing really well at the start, and I would have like Assad right behind me, like tracking my every move, every decision I make, every call I do, right? And things were like really stressful, and I wasn't in like in a good mental state back then.
And so, what actually happens when that happens for a player? And I guess in this situation, it was pretty clear what was the problem. But what then did you go ask for help? Or how did you actually handle or try to get out of it?
I didn't really handle it well. I mean, I tried a lot of things. Like I had problems with stress and like with stage fright before and things like that. I even tried meditating for a short period there. I was searching for a solution, trying to bring myself back to like the positive way of thinking, bring me to like a positive state of mind, but nothing really worked, to be honest. I tried a couple of different things, but it was just that constant pressure of just like, being all the way across the ocean, not really knowing anyone there except Kassad. And I don't know, it was just really stressful.
For you, like the solution was just changing the environment, changing going back, and then when you came back and kind of started the FPL grind and stuff like that, it settled back in? What is it?
Yeah, exactly. I just came back and I kind of like turned over a new leaf, right? Got a clean slate and just started grinding FPL, trying to build back my confidence, because that's not just the stress and the mental health, but my confidence also took like a really big hit. And I was just, just started grinding, started from the scratch, you could say, and that's when Yossarian called me to make that mix. We were called Men's Not Hot, later on we became Imperial, and over the course of those like 10 months, I think it's been a year now since we made Men's Not Hot, and over the course of that year I was slowly building up my confidence back, and I would say it's pretty high right now, and my mental state is really good, and it's mostly because of the people I surround myself with, and the way that I think now is a lot different than the way I was thinking before when I was in Renegades.
Another example of this that we talked about before going on the show was the issue with Bubski from Fraxters, who just before Atlanta had a panic attack, it seems. That's what he wrote in the Twitlonger anyway, and couldn't go with the team because he didn't want to hold them back, and obviously couldn't go for health reasons, and where they had to bring in HS in the last possible second. I think he arrived an hour or so or less before the game.
Yeah, like 10 minutes or something. Yeah.
So it's obviously something that especially maybe young players will have to deal with in their time. And I think also DK the writer was doing like an article about how this is only the first of many examples of this that we're going to see because of the schedule and also the pressure on young people. Do you kind of can you agree on that, Nexa? Do you think that's actually something that that lies within the scene as sort of a lingering problem?
Yeah, it's especially hard for like young players to stay like in the positive state of mind, you know, and like good mental health, because you play one bad game and you get so many like hateful comments and backlash from the community, especially on HLTV, right? And people accusing you of throwing and God knows what else, and just swearing, cursing, throwing all the shit in you, and it can become pretty stressful. And like you would try to like do your best to like not think about it, but it's always there in the back of your head, right? If I play this game bad, everyone is gonna like talk shit about me, saying how I'm a bad player, I don't deserve to be here, and all of those like little things build up, and that's like basically just stress building up, and then it has to like explode or go somewhere, you know.
What do you go ahead, Prof.
I just want to, like you said that this wasn't like the first or last or whatever the kind of thinking was. I think even Schneider, what his ex name was, he put like maybe a few months ago put out a long tweet longer about like different health issues. I think one of them was kind of stress leading to lack of sleep and stuff like that, and then bad performances tied into everything. And I think at one point he mentioned something along the lines that people, because he was taking like some pills or something to help him out, that people kind of started looking at him differently, that maybe from his teammates there is a kind of thinking that he wasn't, maybe if he wasn't mentally fit and he wasn't going to be a good teammate, good player, or something like that. Is there kind of a taboo about stuff like this in the scene right now?
Well, I'm not really sure about
like,
that.
do people talk about it at all from your point of view?
No, not really. Like I haven't heard anyone say anything about it, but I think like instead of judging people for those kind of things, and even if they are taking like pills or whatever to help him sleep, instead of just like pushing people away, because as you all are aware, like depression is a really big problem, not just in like in the CS community, but in the world in general, right? Instead of like pushing those people away and talking behind their back, you should always try to find like a way to help them, right? At least that's my point of view.
Or you just need Neil M on your team.
Exactly. If you have Neil M, you'll never be depressed.
He'll help
you. Even if you're joking, it kind of, you need like someone just to let off kind of the steam and the pressure and all of the things that kind of, especially if there is just taking young teens that play CS that are kind of mostly mentally just introverted, won't really talk about stuff, and then if you have someone just like talking shit, it kind of helps just clear the air.
Like Neil's the kind of guy you can tell anything to, and he makes you feel like really comfortable when you're around him, right? You feel like you can just tell anything to him, and he won't like judge you for it, right? He'll have a laugh with you about it, you'll laugh about it over beers, and just like he'll talk you through it. He's 28 I think, or 26, not really sure right now, and he has like some life experience, you know, and he's the kind of guy who will always back you up and who'll be there for you, right? And I think that's I really like Neil M.
Is this? I know he's looking for a new job. Is this a plug or what? Are you trying to get him sold right here?
No, I think he has a lot of good offers without me saying good things about him here.
This is like another level of selling him. Like now he has even the opportunity to raise like maybe not like 4K now, maybe make it 6. I have some other offers. You see it here on this show. Even this guy even knows that I have other offers.
Esperanto's in the chat right now. I think he's trying to see. This is the problem. Like you don't really know if this is just trolling or he's actually trying to come with the counter argument, right? Life experience lives with his mom. I saw Neil was in the chat as well. Neil, you can go ahead and give it your all in a rebuttal here if you want to. Not sure we're going to be picking it up because I know you're Irish and you have a propensity for swearing, so there'll be kind of a line there, but go ahead.
That's racist.
And answer him. Oh, I'm not one.
I also see Koya, your teammate from the good old first WSG. I guess he borrowed you the camera.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Thanks for
very much.
saving HLTV. We don't have the money to buy cameras for our guests. Let's move on to the actual, I guess, the winner, or at least a viewer question that will give this person a beautiful HLTV poster. So for those of you who don't know, each week we do a roundup asking for topics, and the best one, or the one that gets chosen for this separate topic, gets to pick an image from our gallery, and we'll print it out for him and send it as a poster. Let's actually go ahead and find the tweet itself. It was from a regular user, someone that's usually after us for picking the wrong MVPs at events. I think he's one of the ones that were most vocal in his attack against us when we did pick Dupree at the major, I think.
At the major.
Wasn't it?
I mean, like, all of these guys that we picked so far, like Don Hatzi's Discord goons. So, but that also says something about his goons, that they at least have some decent questions and they think about the game. So.
Yeah. It's good to know that they branch out. Next up, it'll be probably Don himself.
Is it like Existence? Is that the guy?
Yeah, and he has a picture of his name is Matt. That's what we know.
Okay.
So he asks, the current weapon meta and how there seems to be a decrease in the number of notable dedicated primary or full-time AWPers. Is the current shift that favors exceptional hybrids, Device, Simple, Nitro, Chris J, and also I guess ZywOo, temporary, or a trend that will have a lasting effect?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would just challenge the premise, because I don't think, like, you can't call Device a hybrid because he has something like 50% of his kills are op kills, and Simple is very similar to that, I think, over like 2018, God knows how many lads. So to call that a hybrid in the first place, I feel like is unfair. Chris J is a little bit different. That's like a secondary opper. Nitro, I feel like, is the only one where it makes sense, like, and Liquid in general.
It's fair to say, like, if you just look at the stats, I didn't look at them today or something, but the way Device, like Astralis play with Device, sometimes he literally just rifles for a whole half, and he doesn't fall off because of it. He still frags out. So that is kind of, even though maybe the stats don't back it, like the way they use him is in a hybrid way, because he just can play the rifle, just like Simple can also play the rifle if they are forced because of the economy and stuff like that. I think kind of the thinking here is classic ops, as in hard carry ops, as Guardian was in Navi, that you have to give him the op, even though they kind of force themselves out of giving him the op sometimes, but mostly he had the op and he was like set up to do stuff, and then you wait for him and then you play off of that. And the meta kind of changed in the way that you really don't need Device or Nitro or Simple to have the op to construct your T side or CT side or whatever. The CT side maybe, but the T side definitely not.
Yeah, I think having a hybrid opera gives you a lot more different things to do on your T side, right? Usually when you have an opera on T side, you can't really like play fast rounds and rushes, but if your opera can pick up a rifle and be just as good with it, I think it gives you like much more room to like change things up and surprise your opponents, right? And also, like, the other way around, if you have like a primary opera who's not that good with rifles, like JDM was like, that's an example. When he was on the rifle and not the op, he would just like you wouldn't have like any confidence in him to get like those important kills, like that one kill if he's like anchoring a site or something like that, right? Because he only like mains op and he won't be that proficient with the rifle. So I think like the hybrid players are the future, you could say.
What do you think about the players you had in your team, like in the Imperial days? Esperanto is kind of the secondary op in that team.
Yeah, right. Like both Esperanto and Nuki, they're both hybrids. Like Nuki wasn't main opper when we had him. He was a rifler, and we just needed an opper, so he would be like the hybrid for us. But he was also really good with rifles. And now that he's no longer in Imperial, he's not even an opper. He's just a full-time rifler.
Also, now when I think about it, all of the players that kind of rose through FPL, you can't really be a dedicated opper if you play FPL primarily, just because I remember the Slovenian player Savi, he played FPLC back in the day, and I was talking to him about just like developing himself. He says like I can't play the op because I want to buy an op, and 3 other guys already bought the op, so
Yeah.
I have to play rifle, and I
Yeah.
guess it's the same in FPL as well. You just really can't full-time op
If
you're an FPL player.
yeah, if you're an FPLC and you want to qualify for FPL, you need to know how to like use all weapons. You need to know how to shoot with pistols. You need to know how to op, how to rifle. You know, you just have to be like a complete player if you wanna get to FPL, right? You have to be able to hard carry every game you play, right? And I just rifle kills, but op picks and everything around it, you know.
So nexa, why don't you play op?
If you watch like the last month and a half, I've been picking up the op recently, and I'm kind of practicing it in that match, you know, and I'm kind of going for that like secondary opera role soon.
But I mean, doesn't just going back to the whole discussion about hybrids and how unpredictable they are potentially, like how different the play style can be of the entire team, but doesn't that also take away from the consistency of the team, and then kind of not having like a very default way of playing at times? Like, you're going to change up a lot if you have only hybrids. If you have like multiple hybrids, if you switch around a lot, doesn't that just take away from the consistency of the team and just like everybody knowing how everybody plays?
Well, it is true, but on the other hand, you won't always have money to buy the op, right? And then if your opera isn't good with rifles, you're basically playing 4v5 that round, right?
Yeah, also the thing you mentioned about mixing up, it doesn't necessarily mean if you have hybrid players that you're not going to have like a primary opera on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
You're probably going to have someone to default to, but at some times you're going to mix it up to a degree, or add like a double op, or maybe a spawn-based pick or something like that. But most of the time, when it's a default round, you'll have the guy that's going to be.
Another good thing with like having hybrid operas, we had Nuki Esperanto on the team, right? And most of our T sides would be like Esperanto has a spawn to pick here, or Nuki has a spawn to pick the other side, and we would just drop the op to the one who has the best spawn, and both of them could get the entry easily because they're so good with the op, right? And really good with rifles as well. So that's like another advantage for like the hybrid players.
Yeah.
Same goes for like FaZe, right? They can shuffle around the op to literally anyone, and they'll all be insane with it.
I guess it also goes the other way. Then you have teams that are actually in need of an AWPer, but then don't really. They end up doing something else, like Liquid did with Nitro, and also I want to say it, MSL in North when they won DreamHack. I know Striker is gonna love me for that one. You also have teams now actually having success in missing an AWPer and just making it sort of, maybe not a hybrid role, but at least having someone pick up the op that didn't before and having success with it.
I think it's pretty hard actually, especially if you're a newer team, to actually play without an AWPer, mostly just because of the CT side and the way it's just easy to get picks with the op. If you don't have someone that's dependable as to get like the easy op pick, it's easy to kind of get the first pick with if you have decent op skills, but then later on in the round, if you have someone that's kind of not really that good, it's kind of difficult to really hold on in the kind of current meta of CS. Like, people just know how to play the T side so well that they're just gonna like default you, take some map control, stretch you around, and then hit the site. That if you're just holding like a 5v5 late round, it's very hard if you don't get like the early pick, and without the op, it's hard to get the early pick. I think that's kind of the main issue for newer teams. But at the same time, like Liquid is a team that's been around pretty good. Like they have a decent playbook of everything, so it kind of works out for them in a different way. And Nitro isn't that bad, to be honest. He's like okay.
Thanks for Matt for sending in the question. I wonder what player he's gonna pick for his poster there. Probably
maybe it's
gonna
not
be
a player. Maybe it's just something like this. The PGL Krakow major, pretty good background right here.
We have some pretty good pictures, guys. They're the best in the business. There was one guy asking you, actually, Nexa, directly, because again, you can come with your questions in the chat. We'll pick them up and we'll try to get them asked, answer them ourselves. So I'll send them on to him. There was one guy who wanted to ask before we move on to the next question, the difference between the Valiance now and iNation back then, your first team, and also a team you joined a little bit later. Why did the squad with you and Kassad not make success or have success?
Well, I think part of the problem was that me and Kassad just couldn't work together, and most of it was like my fault. I think Kassad had like too strong of a personality for like me to handle. Whenever he was behind me, I would just feel so much pressure, and I really couldn't perform with him like standing behind me. So I think that's part of the reason. The other part was that back in 2016-15, the playstyle that iNation had did not suit the meta at all, and I think that's one of the reasons that even without me they couldn't really like do anything or like contest for like even tier 2 CS.
All right, thanks for asking that question. Opadenstirps. Worst thing about viewer questions is having to pronounce the names. Someone with an easy name to pronounce, please ask questions that are also good. Thank you. So let's look a little bit ahead, guys, for the upcoming. Again, we're going to have an event that's pretty stacked. Striker, you're going to fly. When are you flying to Texas?
On Wednesday.
So again, going, and I noticed you were actually looking very much forward to that on account of the weather, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because it's starting to snow in Czech Republic, and I just fucking hate winter. So that's about it. That's my reasoning. I'm just looking forward to Dallas.
It's pretty good. Like,
huh?
Move down here. Like, yesterday was the first day I actually didn't wear shorts since like 6 months or
Get
something.
the fuck out.
That's good. And I have Malta coming up, which is also pretty hot. And then Dubai, which is also pretty hot.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I have what? Oh, I have Lisbon in December, so that's also pretty good.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with winter. So
Get the fuck out.
I put the obvious, I guess, team to talk about in the bar there when we look at the ECS Season 6 finals in Dallas. We can touch on them if you guys want to. I guess it's pretty obvious, but I feel like we talk about every time Astralis are playing. We ask this question: can anyone really challenge them? And the answer always seems to be no. And then at IEM, we had someone actually do that, at least in the beginning of the or sometimes. During the IEM Chicago event, but then they ended up winning anyway in convincing fashion. So what'll it take actually for teams to take him down this time? Let's ask your opinion on this next, because we've been talking about this team every time.
To be honest, but at ECS final, like I think Astralis is just gonna take it without any troubles, right? There's no phase there. I don't really see anyone challenging them. I would say that maybe Liquid will put up a fight, but so far in every game they've played, it's been like kind of just like really one-sided between them. Feels like Astralis' playstyle is just way too good for Liquid to challenge. And as far as the other teams go, I don't really see like anyone really challenging them, pushing them the way like FaZe can do or
Did you watch any of Janko's MIBR?
Yeah, I did, and to be honest, they don't really look like all that well. For the players that have, they're not really like performing on the level that's expected from them, right?
Yeah. Couldn't be more agreed, as our famous forum post goes. Like they have obviously had some issues.
I think that's
getting it all working.
There are some role problems there, right? I don't think they have like a player who is fully dedicated to being a support, so they're just juggling it around depending on the maps, right? So
it seemed like one of the issues that would pop up when you saw the lineup with like Fallen obviously being the op that needs some space to get the picks for everything. Okay, Coldzera likes to like hang back a bit, but he's still not going to be playing the worst roles on the team. And then you have First, 2E, and Theric, which are all aggressive players. So kind of figure out like how is this really going to work out. But so far not that good. Obviously there's still time to make it work, but with just how much has been put into this team to make it like a world beater, it's really not going that great.
But guys, they have a player that's on the under 30 Forbes list. Did you guys see
that's another meme, honestly.
Yeah.
This is one that's, I mean, I know
Janko also got nominated for the coach of the year or something by whatever award it is, but at least I like his replies. Like, I don't know why I don't know why I didn't got nominated, but it's something like, maybe I really didn't deserve this. My vote is Zonic. I was like, okay, props to
But
him.
was that the same award that put Anders as the best host? Was that the one?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Maybe he hosted them like for a Christmas party or something, so they nominated.
Maybe it's like a best host of a party. Yeah, exactly. Like,
but
I mean, Anders would probably not be that anyway. But I mean,
I think he would. He would like, it would be fun, definitely.
He would. Oh, Christmas at Anders, or what?
Well, just generally Anders and parties. I haven't seen him at too many, so.
But if it was a house party, not like a loud party, maybe some like themed thing with, I don't know.
Yeah, like CS:GO maps and stuff.
Maybe
like a party. Look, I think Anders would be great at like creating parties around like walking around a map and finding smokes and flashes and stuff.
Okay.
That's about.
I don't know how that fits into a party, but okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's just like that explains Anders. That's what I'm saying.
So for those of you who didn't see it, because I know the award things and those two guys getting mentioned in awards where they clearly have no business or being nominated for it, that I was expecting, I know this is probably naive of me, but I was expecting a little bit more from Forbes at least. Because what happened was, ZywOo was nominated for their yearly 30 under 30, which is like a collection of impactful people under 30 in various categories, and this was
this was gaming
category. Yeah. So there was a bunch of game developers and I think YouTubers as well, or at least streamers, and then he's in there, right, as a one of the most impactful or at least interesting people under 30, and they put his. They talked about the Cloud9 win at the major, but then when it said something along the lines of when they changed to, and he was transferred to MIBR where he continues to shine, winning the Zotac Masters.
Yeah.
And also that's one thing. I mean
if you put him there, you have to write something about him being great. You can't really say like he won the major and then this team
and
he left the team, which then fell apart. And then he joined another team, and won a kind of unimportant event, and then didn't do much.
If you go ahead and go like this, see, this is when they changed team, right? This is him shining apparently.
Yeah, he had some good online matches.
Yeah, in Pro League, but I mean, you said that since you put him there, you have to put something, right? And that's my whole problem with it, because it ended up, or at least it was pretty clear who was even the judge of that, because his own boss, Noah Winston, who's the CEO of Immortals, that owned the MIBR brand, is actually apparently one of the judges in that category.
That also like why would you do that? Like, even if you were the judge, why would you vote for your own player that you know that doesn't really fit it? It's kind of, I don't know. I couldn't do it.
It just seems like, okay, so I mean, obviously we see this and then, okay, it's funny, haha, but it's so easy it's not really well hidden either. Like, his name's right there, and if you have half a brain, you know that he's actually his top boss, right?
Was that only American people, by the way? I'm just wondering.
No.
Does anybody know? No, it wasn't, right? So why just not put Fallen in there?
Yeah,
like that would actually make sense, just because he is a very influential player.
That's true.
He has done so much in South America, so it's just like, why not put him there? That actually makes sense.
All right, so that's off track. Let's talk a little bit about the ECS finals again. I mean, I know we touched a lot upon them, but what about Mouse Sports as contenders, guys? Because they obviously have Stikao back now. Seems like things are going pretty well. They came on the back of some pretty great wins, and then they won in Oakland. Do you guys not think that they could actually do damage here?
I think they could maybe surprise us. The one thing I'm really excited about is to see if anyone will challenge Astralis or Nuke again.
Yeah, Let's see if the
Yeah.
like record can go on. I mean, actually, the Maus Astralis game was very close actually to Maus winning it, and then we had Device literally.
Yeah,
I think
just
he had
like
5 rounds, and 4 rounds with him getting triple kills, either with the AWP or the AUG, and it was like, okay, it's done now. You
like
had your chance.
yeah, I'm really excited to see if like Maus will just like pick Nuke again, or
I'm
like
just
let
wondering
it
if
let it
there's
leave
any
it in.
chance. I wonder just if there's any chance that Astralis will actually start focusing on Nuke a little bit more now, just because they seem to be getting, at least like some teams actually seem to be getting close. So Astralis might just, they did the same thing with Train when that was basically by far their worst map, like because the T side was just very awkward and they were just like making comebacks on CT side. So they did the same thing with Train when they saw that was their worst map, and quite noticeably so. They just started putting more focus on that. So now that they see that maybe their nuke is falling off a little bit, or maybe they need to update a couple of things so that they're not as predictable, so that they don't just recycle the same things that they've been playing for the past half a year. So I'm just curious to see that, if we are actually going to see something new from Astralis and Nuke potentially, if somebody actually does play it against them, which is pretty likely. Liquid play it. Liquid have actually taken Astralis to quite a lot of close results.
Like all of these
well.
teams except MIBR actually and Cloud9 actually like play it fairly well. Like Liquid, NIP, North, NRG, Mousesports all play it like fairly decently. So maybe in the group stage we won't see it with Cloud9 and MIBR being in their groups, but everyone else is like there's a pretty big chance for them to play it. Like, but I love how the discussion about Astralis isn't like, are they going to win the tournament? It's like, then
Are they actually going to go
is someone
undefeated
going to
in
beat them? And now it's like, will someone stop the nuke record? But,
Yeah.
okay.
So what's the next step here?
Will anyone get 10
Literally,
rounds?
I don't
No,
know.
the thing is, like, we have actually seen a kind of a weakened Astralis at Chicago. As weird as it seems, given that they actually won and that they actually won going undefeated in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, of course, it's weird to say that Astralis looked a little bit off, but it was kind of obvious from at least from the group stage and even from parts of the playoffs where at least the first map against Liquid, that they really had no business winning that, and they just came back from, what was it, something like 14-5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So that's
There's
one of the things that kind of makes me feel like maybe Astralis will not be as dominant as we think them. But at the same time, I agree with what Nexa said at the beginning, which is that there's no FaZe, there's no Navi, there's basically, out of the teams that just generally keep challenging Astralis, just Liquid are there, and they just haven't really won a best of 3 against them.
Yeah.
So can't really put them as a big challenger as well. So have to agree, Astralis look like insane favorites again.
The only way I see like Liquid challenging them is if Twist just has another like insane hats off performance, like getting like plus 50 in a best of 3 or something like that, right?
The thing is, like, if they actually all combine, if they're actually all on point, I know it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but like we've always, like, all of these series with Liquid against Astralis, somebody just disappeared, right? This last one, there was actually pretty much everybody, aside from like, I think aside from Twists, and even he wasn't all that great in that series. So just in general, if they actually all show up against Astralis, which is obviously a very hard thing to do, they could actually have a chance. But we've always seen somebody disappear, and that's a problem for against a team like Astralis, who will just not give you too many chances.
Do we see Liquid banning Nuke maybe? Would that maybe help? Like, they've been banning like Train all the time, but I don't think their Train is potentially going to be that bad. I don't know why they decide to ban it that much. Like, it started
Well, they
a while
haven't really
back,
played it at all in the past 3 months or something.
I mean, they
from
played it at one point and then decided to not play it anymore. So, I don't know. It's something you can try, you know. You lost like 5 finals.
I mean, the last time they played it was 4 months ago, and that was even very rare anyway. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, at this point, like, people might as well just stop playing you completely and just like play whatever their insta-ban was.
Yeah.
Just because of Astralis. Like, if you actually want to challenge them for something, like they're just like, at this point they just have an automatic 1-0 in any best of 3 against the team that plays Nuke. Like it doesn't even like there's not even a discussion about that at this point. Like we know that Astralis are going into every series with a 1-0 advantage already, and they're already the best team in the world by quite some margin. So you're basically going in an uphill battle from the beginning. That's a big problem.
Didn't they say that they were gonna be playing it less, or what was the?
No, they
was
said
just,
they
like,
have been playing
practice-wise.
it less because they've been beating everyone and people haven't been picking it against them. It's like it's the classic issue when you have a map that is so good for you and people just avoid playing it. And like, what's the point of practicing it if you're not going to play it at an event? So
That was
yeah.
our mindset in Imperial back when we were really insane on Mirage, right, with Desperado, just like
Yeah.
doing crazy stuff in Connector. I think we had like 16-0 on Mirage. I think we lost it only once on LAN in like 9 months. It was against Kingwin only. It was like a pretty insane map for us, and we just stopped practicing it.
What happened then?
And then we lost to Valiance online on Mirage.
Good stuff.
That's just poetic, isn't it?
Yep.
I like that.
All right, so let's hop into. Let's actually cut off Nexa for a little while. Sorry, Nemanja, we're going to be coming back to you just shortly after this. You can take a little bit of a break, enjoy, take a look, turn around, look at the stripes behind your chair, because we have bets to settle, we have scores to settle, guys. Once again, we delve into our, I don't know. At this point,
scores to settle as
unsuccessful
if
game.
someone is beating someone else and not everyone just losing.
I mean,
all of us are just losing.
Let's take a look at it, okay? I'm just gonna be finding.
Dude, if you don't win now after what you've done, like, let's get into that, and then we can
After
talk.
what I have done,
Yes.
All right, so
I'm just playing here to win, doing my best, trying hard, giving 110%. In each
Any more cliches that you want to say?
yeah,
Playing my
come
heart
back stronger?
out. I'm
No,
coming
that's
back
me.
stronger.
That's
putting
mine.
in the effort.
That's my
Yeah.
line. So for
Like,
you,
my dream is actually to try to do an interview with someone, but like ban these like key words, like caught him off guard, adapted. You know, people just use these phrases all the time that don't mean anything. And try to do a CS interview without them, it would literally be impossible. People would like explode, their minds would explode.
you'll also have to then from your end ban questions like, so you're
How do you
meeting in the final. What do you what how will you do? How will you get into? What's your feeling coming into? You have to do some work your own.
Yeah.
So
It would be fun.
let's play our own game, guys. We go to GG.Bet every week. We have some house money to play with there. For those of you who are looking at my score on the red there, we actually started out with €1,000 on our accounts that we then take and bet an amount of on upcoming matches. Please do bet responsibly, because I can't obviously do it. So if you decide to do it, do it
I mean,
better.
you're breaking even at least. Like that's not too bad. You're breaking more or less even at this point. So that's like
It's
you
a depressing.
haven't really lost your house. You're pretty okay.
If we're talking about real gambling, this is not like you didn't lose all of your money in the span of like, what is it, 13 episodes?
Yeah, 12.
Fine.
Yep.
You're doing well. Don't worry.
I'm doing.
Just continue as you are. And
Well, if you do continue, maybe you're getting run into the fucking ground. We'll see.
You guys are also losing money, just so you know. So let's see if we can rectify all of us, because it goes for you guys too, because you're on a downwards curve as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. And for this episode, we went to GG.Bet, looked at the odds for the opening games of ECS Season 6 in Dallas, and I think we all went kind of safe on this one. Do you want to start
I'm
off?
literally getting attacked by Striker, like, physically, because I went to like expected. But look, I've been losing so hard for so long, and my logic is, as I would like say to people in CS as well, if you're losing against like good teams all the time, just play against a bad team. You'll win, get the confidence back, and then everything will start going well again. That's kind of my thinking with this bet. So I went for Astralis against Cloud9, a win on Astralis. Like, why wouldn't this happen? Like, easy, 1.19, not even bad odds for an Astralis win. It's only the thing is it's best of one, so people are kind of, oh, maybe something can happen. But I'd say it's decent odds. What do you
Aren't actually the odds for Astralis winning the group or getting to the final or something the same?
Yeah,
like the total.
I think it's even less than that. I think it's 1.1 for Australia to get into the final.
Yeah, so that's one. I took Liquid against North as well. Like Liquid, like why is this 1.44? I just don't get it. Like Liquid top 3 team, North is like okay, but nothing special. They lost to LDLC. They whatever, great odds as well, and just like spiced it up with a spicy 1.26 odds right here. NRG to take 10 rounds off of NIP. It didn't even want to get take the win. 10 rounds. That's it. So that's my insane bet for here. Putting €75.
Just how much? How much is that again? 2.12 or something?
2.16 total odds.
Okay.
You put 75 on this one?
Yes.
All right. That's pretty interesting. Okay, let's move on to mine.
Should have just went in with 100 just so that you can get punished at least if you actually do fuck up.
Exactly. So I also bet on the Astralis versus Cloud9 match, but I had a little bit of a different take on it. I think that the Astralis will obviously win it, and they'll win it by 6 rounds or less or more. So I put the match to not go over 25.6. So just a little bit of a different take on that match. I think it'll be pretty quick work. We haven't really seen Cloud9 do that much damage at all, and they have. I mean, unless Kyo really works for some reason, just coming into the team as a permanent member, I don't think so. Then we have Liquid versus North. I also went with Liquid for the same reasons as you. I have different odds though. Why not? I think my odds are even better than yours, Prof.
I have 144 for Liquid to win.
Oh, it's worse for me then. Probably did it a little bit before you then. And then I picked actually an IP to beat NRG. This one I wasn't actually that sure of, just because it's a BA1 and I think NRG could definitely take it, but I think NIP are on the up and up, so they'll go ahead and win that one. So total odds for mine aren't really. I thought I would definitely be the lowest one. But then I saw yours.
You're surprised. Caught you off guard right there, right?
Yeah. So hopefully I can break 1,000 again.
Can you mentally reset and take it into the second map, like fresh start?
I'll have to just say the first map never happened.
Yeah. Maybe play your own game, and hope for the best.
Well, I am playing my own game, unlike you two guys. You just put it out kind of. Well, to be fair, like I'm actually not that ahead of you in terms of total odds because it's 4.3, and yours is something like 4.2, I think. But yeah, I actually went with most sports on my BR. You guys didn't bet on that, either of you, right? No. Neither of you touched it. I actually went for over 24.5 rounds, which is 16-8 and more. Just because I feel like most sports are pretty clear favorites, but I wouldn't want to bet on them in a best of one scenario. It's fairly risky. Wasn't entirely sure about Mao's actually winning that, so I just went with like
also
a semi.
Opening games can also.
That's also kind of fair.
Checks and opening games.
Yeah, it's just that. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about that. It's actually across sports as well, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I just feel like 16-8 and more, or 16-9 and more in this case is pretty realistic. I feel like those two should go relatively close at least. So that was my thinking about that game. NRG and NIP actually went against Yoss. More about because I feel like this game is much closer to 50-50, and it actually is not that bad for with 1.7 for NIP. It's actually a pretty good odds. But I just went with NRG because I felt like it was fairly 50-50 for one map. And NRG have actually been looking at least somewhat on the up, while NIP they've kind of improved from where they've been a couple of months ago, but they haven't really looked like a top 5 contender or anything like that. They've been pretty much looking the same as NRG, kind of like on the edge of top 10. Yeah. So just based on that, I just went with NRG. And in the end, Liquid North, I agree with you guys. I feel like 1.44 for Liquid is pretty damn nice. That was one of those like heavy favored matchups.
I'm gonna need to have a talk with the GG.Bet people for some reason. I missed out on 0.04 odds in this matchup.
Because you're ginger.
You went early, I think that's why.
You got the ginger odds.
That's racist.
I don't know how. Well, okay.
All right. I have no hopes for anyone here, really. Actually, after the last 4 or 5 rounds,
I have full confidence in myself.
All
also in Prof because there's no way he'll fuck up. There's just
Cloud9.
It just cannot.
Cloud9 is gonna destroy Astralis. I just feel it because I'm just on such a bad roll.
What was the energy against that Nip again?
What was that? I took 10 rounds by energy.
For energy, right? Oh yeah, okay.
All right.
Okay.
That can anything could happen.
Enough of us, because we're gonna
another
lose
cliche.
Anyway. Yes.
Can't underestimate the opponent,
so,
which is in this.
They're very hard to keep out, right? Nexa, you have to have experienced this as well, right? Giving off interviews to various outlets in the CS community, trying to not use cliches like sports cliches. Is that something that obviously your English is pretty good, and you've had you also mentioned it a few times that it was a catalyst to your kind of success in FPL and in international squads. What's it actually like? Let me ask you that way. What's it like on the other side of the microphone?
I think it's impossible to avoid just giving the cliches, right? You're just answering a question and then you don't know what to say, and that's when it's like automatic, just automatically set to just like a cliche reply when you don't have anything else to say, right? That's why everyone always does it at least one per interview.
So
they're saying it's actually just the interviewer's fault for asking dumb questions.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
should ask better questions, and the amount of cliche is just on us.
Exactly.
If you have any questions, guys, viewers, people in the chat.
We should just like get a couple of players and just reverse roles basically.
Yeah.
And just get them to interview us, and we'll just give them all the cliches possible.
Or we'll show them that we're better, right? And give all the unique insight that no one would want to read. I think Stiko actually did something.
The problem is like what is there interesting for us to talk to them about? Like from our point of view, like what could they ask that they could be interesting to them? That's the problem.
I don't know. Let's give Nexa a chance. Is there anything you want to ask the HLTV org writer?
No, I don't want to ask anything. I just want to say like one of the things why people always use the cliche is like we finish a game, right, and then we go to do an interview, which is like the normal case scenario, right? You just win a game or lose whatever, and then you go do an interview. You sit with someone who's gonna interview you, right, and they say, okay, I'm gonna ask you this, and this, and then we have like 2 minutes to think of like all the answers in our head, right? And then when the question comes, you probably don't like have a set answer already in your head, right? So you just give a cliche, right? Oh well, we just played our game, and that was it, right? Because you don't really have like enough time to think of a proper answer. Like you're feeling like the hype from the game you just won, right? And all the other things going through your head.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Impossible scenario.
It's also partially why I kind of like doing text interviews more. Yeah. It's not just that the videos are much more of a hassle generally, but it's just like people are a little bit more comfortable when there's not a camera in their face.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Yeah, I think one of the interview I did where I said I'm hoping that we break into top 20 this year. I can't remember who I did it with. It was like a written interview, right? And when you compare like those answers to the answers I gave on live interviews, they're like it's like a completely different person, right?
I think you're doing good so far. There was a question for you actually. Nicholas JJ asked, and this is about the new Valiance team. How did you guys spot Otto ND, the Finnish player from Habu, and how is he fitting in the team?
He's fitting in really well. We spotted him when I don't know how to pronounce his name. TGWR1S.
Peter,
yeah, basically Peter. Yeah, he tweeted out LAN stats from the entire like 2018, and Otto was like the highest rated player on LAN, and we were missing an AWPer. We knew he was an AWPer, and then we contacted him when he was playing for Havu. Neil contacted him and asked if he was interested in joining us. And he said, yeah, I'm interested. I want to try. We tried them out, and then when we decided to go to Valiance, we just asked him, do you want to come with us, or do you want to like go back to Havu or do whatever? And he said, I would like to stick with you and SP, and we just brought him over with us.
Oh,
fair enough.
Peter, we're gonna be listening. We're gonna have to hear about that for a while. Then, if he's actually looking at this, that's pretty good.
I mean, just a
to
classic,
be honest, like he should get a lot of credit for some of these roster moves. Because a lot of the time he actually just gives gives people advice, like if they actually come and ask for it. So that's fair.
That's what I said. You just need to open like a consulting agency and start charging for that shit. But he's like,
where the consulting agency is actually useful for something.
yeah, one that actually does something. That would be pretty cool.
You could just write Valiance and ask them for 10% of whatever transfer sum they're worth.
I mean, the famous like Mixwell to Optic was also like Daps messaging him like who should we try out? Like maybe this Mixwell guy. It's like okay. And then they flew him over, and he was like a revelation for that squad. Pretty cool.
There was a question for you, nexa also, and I'm going to correct it a little bit because it asks how much time did it take you to adapt to everything in Australia when you went down there? I guess he means when you went to Renegades, who play in America. And you touched on it a few times, but I think it's an interesting question in the sense that I can elaborate on it a little bit. What actually happens, like the first couple of days when you move to another place, to another country, to another continent to play for a CS team? Because you actually said that one of the problems was you didn't really go out of the house much.
Yeah, I think for first week or two it was really hard for me, right? I'm not really a social person, right? And you come there and you're living with 5 guys you've never met before, right? And I think it would have taken me much longer to adapt if before going to America we didn't have a boot camp here in Belgrade in EFrag Studios, and that's where I, just like felt the atmosphere, met some of the guys, had some conversations with them, right? And it made things a bit easier when I was moving to NA, but still it was kind of a new experience for me, and I wasn't really like all that comfortable with like living with 5 other people, and I don't know, also didn't help that I spoke English and they spoke Australian. It was really hard to understand sometimes. So
I like how you present it as if it was a completely different language, but it is sometimes, to be fair.
With Lithuanians, but this was even worse. So, like, a question that also ties into the player mental health thing, and there may be taboo or not about young players, especially having a hard time dealing with the stresses. Do you feel like, okay, so if you were made to make this move again, let's say, maybe not Renegades, but any other team, pro big organization somewhere else than in Serbia, what would you do differently? Like, what's the takeaway?
Well, the takeaway, first thing I would like have to think, if it's an NA org, I would have to like really think about it if I want to go back to like, depends on the situation, right? Some players go and move and they live in an apartment by themselves, and some orgs have like a team house, right, where all the players are. That would also be one of the factors. Also, I would have to just like, be sure in myself that that's the right move for me, and if it is a tier 1 team, and if I think that I'm ready for like that next step, to be honest, right now, I think us and Valiance, we have a lot of potential. I think we'll do some really great things in the future. And right now, I don't even see myself leaving that team in at least another year, right? And if it comes to that, it would only be for like a really like top 5, top 10 team.
Let's actually dive into that a little bit, because there was a while back a question for you about the upcoming time in Valiance. You obviously have the close qualifier for the minor coming up. How are you guys going to prepare for that? Obviously, it's the actual minor is a little while away, but you're not done with the hard part of it yet, or at least one of the hard parts. So how are you guys handling that?
Well, right now we're just expanding our map pool. We're practicing every day, and I mean, well, today we beat Windigo, and to be honest, apart from like Kent's mouse sports and I don't know who else is there. I would say that Windigo is like the biggest threat in the minor qualifiers. So after beating them, I'd say we feel like pretty comfortable playing just about anybody there except Mouse. Please don't give us Mouse. Yeah.
There's also
Valiance draw Mouse in first round.
You also lost to Kingwin, right, in Montreal?
So no. We lost to Ants in Montreal.
Oh yeah.
I would really like to play Ants just to destroy him, to just give him back for for that semifinals defeat. I mean, that was basically just a troll game. It should have been ours. Like 9 out of 10, we win that game and we go on to the finals. But that's just how things played out, right?
15
yeah, we were 15. No, we were 15-11 up, and it was a 5v2 round.
Yeah.
We had the bomb and everything, and then we did this dumbest shit ever, you know, just the classic FPL round, right, where everyone just peaks for no reason, and then everything just spiraled down. We lost the last map in overtime, and yeah, it was really depressing. But I would really like to play them again and just like destroy them.
Otto would probably like to win against them too, right?
I wanted to touch on, you mentioned Vindigo, like in your time in iNation, in Valiance it wasn't that big of a deal, but for the previous core, they had a lot of issues with playing the Bulgarians. They lost like 16 maps to 1-3 in the last like 2 years or something like that. So was it great for the rest of the guys to get that win today finally?
Yeah, I think for them it was like really good to just like break the curse, you could say. I saw that you posted on Twitter that they lost so many games. It would have been good if you posted the amount of times me and Esperanto beat Vindigo. It would be like the other way around, right? Because I think we only lost to them once when we had Kalinka back. That was in like almost 11 months ago, right? And ever since then we haven't lost a single game. It was like 7 or 8 games, best of 3s against them, and every one we won. So that was like cool thing, right? Hunter and Letny only lose against Vindigo, and then me and Esperanto only beat them. So I was really curious to see how it would go today.
Let's actually, guys, end up on a very positive note on that Vindigo win. Lucas, if you can bring up my screen over here, because this is actually your latest game, which you just finished just like minutes before coming onto the TeamSpeak. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. I don't want to look at that again, please. So does it not show up or what? Maybe it doesn't.
Just want to comment that this Yordio guy in chat has the best troll questions ever. Like, will Luka Modric be the next Croatian president? Legit.
It's turning into quite the Balkan stream, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Kind of expected.
No, next what I wanted to show you at the end here was is actually this. What a game from you. 49-19 over
plus 30.
2 maps. Look at the ADR.
That's pretty.
Were you like excited that I'm gonna finally be on HLTV Confirmed? Let me finish this game as quick as possible.
Yeah, that was the thinking, right? I'll just end this. I won't even give him five rounds, right? I'll just destroy them straight up and just go do my interview. But I think mid first map they started avoiding me and started going to the other side. I think the stats could have been a lot better if they just coming at me.
Like you've spoken like a true FPL prodigy. Right? Nexa, thanks so much for joining us today. Good luck in the upcoming games.
We didn't get the
Thank
preview.
You guys for having me.
Our match next week. Nexa is playing the VIPA Liga League, actually A1 Liga League finals. My team that I'm coaching actually is playing there against Valiance.
Are you actually coaching them now, or is that still the same?
I'm not actually now
situation?
Because now I'm the podcast. But I'll be there. Actually booked my vacation. I have some stuff to do, and then I'll be there coaching behind the guys. Easy win.
So you're actually gonna analyze Nexa's team.
It's a mix. So what's there to analyze? Just play our game, hit our shots.
Yeah, that's
anything can happen.
Give the hybrid the AWP. Anyway, go ahead and make 1.83 rating against Prof and his team, please.
I'll get it over 2. Don't worry.
Let's go.
Thanks so much for joining us, Nemanja, and Prof, Striker, and Yossarian is myself. Saying thank you to everyone in the chat as well. Thank you for joining us. Next show will be next Wednesday, so that's on the 28th, I think. We'll, of course, be back with more topics and suggestions also from you guys from that. Thanks for watching. This has been HLTV Confirmed. Have a great night.